Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On the show today, we'll have comments from Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue. He says they are formulating a plan to deal with the trade war with China. And USDA Undersecretary Ibach has comments on that proposed vaccine bank that made it through the House version of the Farm Bill. And Leah Wilkinson from the Animal Feed Industry Association says Kansas is a rock star when it comes to feeding livestock. We'll also have reports from the Kansas Soybean Commission, Kansas Department of Agriculture, and weekly updates from the Kansas Livestock Association and Paragon Ag Advisors. When we come back, we'll kick things off with Leah Wilkinson from the Animal Feed Industry Association. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Weed Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
The Animal Feed Industry Association recently released a paper analyzing the impact of livestock production around the U.S. And today we focus on Kansas with Leah Wilkinson, who is Vice President of Public Policy and Education.
Yes, Kansas is one of the rock stars in the animal food world. You've got congressional districts that are in the top 5 across the country in relation to feed produced, total jobs, and in sales. And that's Congressional District 1, 2, and 4.
Well, we know agriculture is a big part of the economy, and it's good to show that your research, in fact, this is the first time that you've really quantified and qualified what goes on in the country.
It is, and it's not only for our industry to be able to show how we have a contribution, but also for the people that live in your districts to be able to see, they see those silos, they see the feed mills, but they don't know what we really contribute or why we're there. So now we're able to show, you've got $17 billion of sales in animal food and pet food in Kansas alone, and you represent 53,000 jobs across the state in the animal food world.
So it is quite important. The other thing that you do is making sure that folks here in D.C. are educated. Lots of rules and regulations that sometimes you may have the best of intentions, but really could harm the industry.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that feed is regulated on a state and a federal basis. So we have to deal with all 50 states and their different state feed laws and regulations, as well as the regulations here on a federal level. So the Food Safety Modernization Act, or regulations that have come in place, that's the most sweeping change in regulations for the animal food and the human food industries since the start of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act back in the 1930s. So we've been really working hard as those regulations have gone in place in the last couple of years to make sure that they are practicable for our industry and implementable, and that we don't have to raise costs or do changes that aren't necessary. We've always been producing a safe product, and now we just have to tell our story better.
Well, to access the report or more information, go online, afia.org. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll have comments from folks at USDA when we return.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. Kansas Weed Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil, and the decision continues improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here, the time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Well, it's always good to hear straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. And Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue has been working on a way to deal with that looming trade war with China. The nation's farm broadcasters peppered him with questions on what they're hearing from the countryside, and many farmers are getting weary from the perils of being patriots for their country as prices continue to fall. And so we asked Ag Secretary Perdue, what's his plan?
Well, again, I think in the first question, the goal of the president is not to require agricultural producers in this country to be the only soldiers in the battle. We know that there will be some temporary trade disruptions, and I do believe that most farmers, most ranchers, most ag people are patriots. I think they're Americans first, and they understand when China's cheating, somebody needs to call their hand on it. I appreciate the fact this one gentleman said he'd already been a patriot, and I agree with that. But the fact is, he means he doesn't want to suffer alone. I mean, we have risen up as a country many times before, and we'll rise up again. I have to take the president at his word. He's looked me in the eye when I was traveling into Ohio and Michigan and Kentucky. He said, I want you to tell our farmers out there that I've got their back, and we're going to do what it takes in that regard. Now, just like the first question, you don't need to lay out that whole playbook all the way along. And while I mentioned earlier that farmers face enough risk year in and year out as it is, they're willing to assume those risks. That's what they do. They understand that. But when it comes to market disruptions, just like the one fellow that said he had been a patriot enough, if there are demonstrable trade disruptions and harm based on those issues, I believe that the United States USDA and the president will step up and make those people, I don't know to say whole, I don't know that's their expectation, but they will fill in the gaps in that way. And we're looking for those kind of ways to do that. The challenge is, and I've questioned my economist considerably about this, how do you, what are, and they tell me they have the algorithms and the all the models there to determine what the trade disruption damage is based on just the markets up and down. And we'll make that determination at some point in time. And we believe first of all, there are regular programs for farmers over PLC and ARC and other types of things that could be utilized. But there are also other authorities such as CCC and Section 32 that could be utilized.
When we come back, more from USDA. You're watching the Kansas Ag Report.
This segment brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Well, one of the proposals that has come out of the House version of the Farm Bill is a vaccine bank that will be created to take care of an event of an outbreak of foot and mouth disease. USDA Undersecretary Greg Ibach says they are working with Congress on that idea.
If we look at the three-legged stool approach that we're contemplating here at USDA and that we are sharing with everybody, how do we divide out that investment that Congress wants to make? Should it continue to be in prevention and surveillance and those programs that are similar to what we have in the 10007 programs that the plant industry has that USDA administers? Or, should we be, just worried about having vaccine available? And I think there's probably a combination that you'll see Congress come to settle on. But again, it's an expensive proposition, and there's going to be important debate along the way before we get to that decision.
Can you stand up what you need with $150 million?
I think that USDA would look at ways to invest whatever money that Congress decides to invest in a vaccine bank in a way that would try to address and give us the most coverage possible. We'd look for innovation in how that rotates and throughout as it starts, getting close to expiration and stuff. And, and so much depends on the type of outbreak you would have too, of how much serum might be necessary. Initially we would want to try to stamp out the disease outbreak if it was small and contained and in a remote area and didn't look like it had already dispersed in a wide region without using vaccine, because that would be our quickest way back to international markets probably. As though the outbreak would, the possibility of the outbreak spreading, we would go through that decision process to decide whether or not we could use vaccine to try to keep it in a regional basis, or whether or not we would need to have volumes available for national. And if you're looking for enough vaccine to vaccinate the entire U.S. herd, that's probably not affordable.
We will hear from our industry partners in the second half of today's program. Stay with us. You're watching the Kansas Ag Report.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm & Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm & Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm and Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm and Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
In 2017, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, soybeans were Kansas' number 4 export, behind civilian aircraft, wheat, and fresh beef. The top 5 export destinations for all Kansas products, not just soybeans, were Canada, Mexico, Japan, China, and Germany. The U.S. runs trade deficits with all of them. April 3, the U.S. Trade Representative published proposed tariffs on about 1,300 Chinese products. It will undergo a public notice and comment process, including a May 15 hearing. Once that is complete, USTR will issue a final determination on subjected imports. China announced intended retaliatory tariffs on 106 U.S. goods that amount to about $50 billion in imports. It specifically mentioned a 25% tariff on U.S. soybeans, saying it would go into effect based on the administration's final course of action. U.S. soybean farmers have leveraged millions of checkoff dollars with federal funds to establish markets for U.S. soybeans in China and around the globe. Last year, the U.S. soybean industry celebrated 35 years of trade operations in China, keeping them going over nearly 20 years without exports to that country. The Kansas Soybean Association has expressed its concerns about the issue to the Kansas congressional delegation and is grateful they, along with USDA, understand how international trade supports the economy in rural America. It looks forward to continuing strong working relationships with them in developing foreign markets and increasing access. Improving global competitiveness is the preferred way to address trade deficits with China and other nations. Kansas soybean farmers and their industry organizations are confident U.S. and Chinese trade officials can work out the underlying issues and look forward to getting back to the business of selling U.S. soybeans to China and other export markets.
Beef has been and continues to be the single largest sector in the Kansas agriculture industry. Join the Kansas Department of Agriculture in celebrating Kansas beef during the month of May, as the governor has proclaimed it Kansas Beef Month. The Kansas beef industry is known across the nation for the high-quality beef produced in the state and includes leaders at all levels of the production chain, as well as in research, health, marketing, and advocacy. Kansas historically is a national leader in beef production with 6.4 million cattle as of the first of this year, and the heritage of Kansas beef is also known throughout the world, as exports of beef and beef products from Kansas totaled $1.25 billion in 2017. This represents the largest export value in the past 5 years. In addition, beef and beef product exports from Kansas have accounted for between 18 and 26% of total U.S. beef exports for each of the last 5 years. With beef cattle in every single county in the state, it's a vital part of the local and state economies. The hardworking ranchers of Kansas are committed to the health, comfort, and well-being of their cattle, and they are also committed to providing high-quality meat products, which are an important part of a nutritious, not to mention delicious, diet. Lean beef provides 10 essential nutrients, including zinc, iron, protein, and B vitamins, and a 3-ounce serving of lean beef has less than 10 grams of fat and 150 calories, while providing nearly half of the daily value for protein. So join the Kansas Department of Agriculture and enjoy Kansas steaks and burgers as we celebrate the important contributions of the Kansas beef industry during Kansas Beef Month this May.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
You need a partner that you can count on to be there for your business, providing a depth of understanding to risk management issues so you don't have to. a knowledgeable support team located in your area, delivering products and services to make you more successful.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Governor Jeff Collier has proclaimed May as Beef Month in Kansas. During the proclamation signing late last month, he acknowledged how vital the Kansas beef industry is to the state's economy, generating more than $7 billion in cash receipts annually. This represents more than half of the state's total agricultural cash receipts. Kansas was home to 7.3 million cattle as of January 1st, 2018, which is more than twice the human population of 2.9 million. The state ranks in the top 3 nationally in fed cattle marketed at 4.94 million head, commercial cattle processed at 6.5 million head, and beef exported at $782 million in value. Kansas also is 6th among states in cow numbers at 1.51 million head and 4th in hides and skins exported at a value of $193.1 million. In addition, cattle ranching, including dual-purpose ranching and farming operations and feedlots, is the top ag employer in the state, according to the Kansas Department of Agriculture. All this clearly shows the overall importance of the beef industry to the Kansas economy. During the month of May, the Kansas Beef Council will be highlighting these facts and emphasizing the role beef plays in a healthy diet. For example, consumers will hear how beef provides 10 essential nutrients, including zinc, iron, protein, and B vitamins, for only 150 calories per 3-ounce serving.
Good morning, I'm Darren Van Vactor with Paragon Ag. Grains continued their momentum through the row crop planting. Over the past week, planting progress for corn made a sizable jump, but still behind the 5-year average. Weather doesn't seem to be a major threat to planting progress at the moment either. However, the market seems to be ignoring planting news and advancing to the highest levels seen since last July. Resistance can be found at 420, 430, and 440. 430 is the December 18 contract high, while the 420 and 440 levels can be seen on the weekly charts. Soybeans continue to trade in a sideways pattern, marking time. Since the middle of February, we have closed between 10.55 and 10.15 every session. A close above 10.60 would signal a breakout to the upside, while $10 to 10.10 support zone holds both psychological and technical significance. Wheat has been the most volatile grain as of late. Both KC and Chicago bounced off support levels and are pressuring overhead resistance. Concern over 2018's wheat crop health has been talked about through a long, cold, dry winter. This concern could be amplified this week as crop condition ratings have not impressed and folks ventured out into Kansas on the annual wheat tour. We'll have to see how the results impact the market as we move forward closer to harvest. To wrap things up, the markets are giving us some opportunities. We did not have these opportunities for corn and beans last year, while wheat gave us a very small window. Whether you've done too much or too little, there are ways to keep moving forward.
We'd be happy to help. Give us a call here at Paragon Ag Advisors, 888-452-8751. I'm Darren Van Vactor. Be safe and have a great week.
Well, that's this week's show. You can get more ag information or watch the show again online at kansasagreport.net. And you can be social with us on Facebook and Twitter. Well, here's to a successful planting season and good moisture. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching the Kansas Ag Report. We'll see you next week.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Weed Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for weeds. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.